The back 180 is a surprisingly difficult trick on a fingerboard. It can be really hard to get used to turning your fingers in the air and landing backwards while keeping both fingers on the board the entire time. So in this video, I'm going to explain everything you need to know to do a back 180. Step number 1, where to put your fingers. You want to put your index finger in the middle of the board and your middle finger on the tail of the board. I find if I put both my fingers so they are straight on the board or tilted towards me, I have very little control over my back 180s and I tend to flip it more like a backside flip. Instead, I try to tilt my fingers slightly away from me so that I could draw a straight line from the tip of my index finger to the tip of my middle finger. This is also going to help a lot with doing the 180 rotation because we're already turning our hand in that direction. Step number 2, how to power slide. One of the trickiest parts of the back 180 is getting used to turning your hand and your wrist backside. Our wrists naturally want to turn front side, so it can be really awkward turning your wrists the opposite way. A great way to practice turning backside is by doing a power slide along the ground. A backside power slide is when you do a backside 180 while keeping all 4 wheels on the ground. The key to this trick is to swing your middle finger behind your index finger almost as if you're crossing your fingers. Your index finger stays in the exact same place the entire time and will rotate along with your wrist, while your middle finger is doing all of the work of pushing the board along the ground to complete the 180 rotation. If you're still struggling with this step, it can help to try putting your board out in front of you so that the nose is pointing towards you and then ride towards your body. That way you don't have to turn your wrist as much. It's good to start slow with this trick as you get used to turning your wrist, but as you get more comfortable, you can speed up the 180 and even try putting your middle finger on the tail and pressing down on the tail so that you're sliding on just your back wheels. Step number 3, how to pivot. A pivot is when you land on 2 wheels and do a 180. When you're first learning to do a back 180, it can be difficult to get the full rotation, so a lot of people will land on their front wheels and pivot the rest of the 180. To do a pivot, place your middle finger on the tail of the board and your index finger on the nose of the board. Then press down on the tail with your middle finger like you're doing a manual. Next, you want to do a seesaw motion so that you're pressing down on the nose of the board with your index finger. Then we want to use the same technique that we learned with the power slide, where we swing our middle finger behind our index finger while balancing on our front wheels. It's good to start slow with this step as well, but over time you can speed up the pivot and make it look more fluid. Step number 4, popping the board. A back 180 is essentially an ollie where you turn your fingers in the air and land backwards, so if you haven't already, definitely check out my ollie tutorial so you can master the ollie first. But turning your wrist and keeping both fingers on the board the entire time is a lot easier said than done, even if you can ollie. One trick that can help you get used to popping and turning at the same time is to start with your wrist turned towards you so that your palm is facing away from you. Then all you have to do is do a back 180 and turn your wrist back to normal. And while this is a lot easier because you don't have to land on the board backwards with your wrist twisted, it's not really a true back 180. So feel free to practice this step to get the hang of back 180s, but you eventually want to work your way up to doing a proper back 180 from your regular stance and then landing on the board facing backwards. A good way to ease your way into doing a proper back 180 is by going back to putting your board out in front of you so that your nose is pointing towards you and you're riding towards your body. Once you get more comfortable doing 180s from this position, you can gradually start to turn your wrist more and more back to your regular ollie position. We can also use the pivot trick we learned in the last step to ollie 90 degrees and then land on our front wheels to pivot the last 90 degrees. Over time, you can start turning your wrist more and more when you ollie so that you don't have to rely on the pivot to complete the full rotation. One thing to keep in mind is you don't have to completely turn your hand so your palm is facing away from you. What a lot of people do to make the rotation easier and make the landing look more stylish is bend their middle finger and keep their index finger straight. That way your index finger and middle finger are still landing in the same position on the board, but you can keep your hand and wrist turned at a 90-degree angle rather than twisting them the full 180 degrees. Another issue I see a lot of people run into when they go to back 180 is they accidentally flip the board like a backside flip. To prevent this from happening, you can put your index finger on the edge of the board that's furthest away from you. This is going to make it harder to flip the board and it will give you way more control. This is also where the finger positioning of turning your fingers slightly away from you will help as well. You really want to focus on sliding both fingers up the board and keeping both fingers on the board the entire time. The key to this trick is to lead the rotation of the back 180 with your index finger to make sure your board follows your fingers in the air. As long as your front trucks are turning and doing the full 180, the rest of your board will follow. This is why it's important to learn how to pivot so you can really focus on turning your front trucks when you ollie. Back 180s look really simple, but they are one of the most difficult tricks in fingerboarding. Once you get a solid back 180 though, it opens up the door to more complicated tricks like backside flips, big spins, and big spin flips. And if you want to learn some other easy tricks, check out my other tutorials like my 1-hour video where I explain every basic fingerboarding trick in detail. Once you master all of those tricks, you'll be looking like a fingerboard pro in no time. And let me know if there's any other tricks you guys would like me to teach you in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more tutorials like this.